Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in to the show. Got my crew with me, Darnell and Tyler. I'm Trey, and we are coming your way with the 61st edition of the Don't Kill the Messengers podcast. Before we get into some basketball, we're going to start this off with some NFL. Just what are you guys' thoughts about Colin Kaepernick and Tony Romo not being signed yet? We'll start with Romo first.
Well, with Romo, kind of got to feel bad for him just because he's stuck. The Cowboys are still trying to hold out hope that they can drum up a little bit of a bidding war. Maybe come draft time where some picks might get offered, so they can move up or stack some picks. But on the other side, you have Houston and possibly Denver, possibly some other team that may be keeping the cards to their chest, just kind of holding out, seeing if they just give up on it and release him so they can just sign him free and clear without having to give up anything.
Yeah, from a team's perspective, that kind of makes sense. Nobody really made any headway on Tony Romo last year when it looked like, Tony Romo's cleared to play, and no one made a move from then when a lot of people thought that Dallas would try to deal him. And then, now the whole off season and everybody's just been speculating what's going to happen to him. And even apparently CBS is in the running for him. They want to get him as a commentator for the year. I don't see that happening. I see Tony Romo on a roster more than I see him behind the camera, but
easy money, man.
But the one thing with Tony Romo is he's always been glass. He's always seemed to find a way to get hurt. And teams are well aware of that, and they don't want to try and deal too much for him. They don't want to be, the overzealous team that offers too much. So I don't blame teams for kind of waiting to see what happens, if he ends up being released or not. But, I'd imagine that Tony Romo could at least warrant a mid-round draft pick at the least.
I mean, for what you're expecting to get from a healthy Romo, I think they would be expecting a little more in the mid-rounder.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's just, I think there's still that fear factor of, will he play majority of the season? And the games that he missed, will they be games that are survivable, that can get you'll still have them for the playoffs?
Do you think we could? Do you think we could potentially see a situation kind of like the NBA where a team would sign Romo and then possibly rest him?
I mean, if he came out and say the Texans got him and they're not in the greatest of divisions, but say they racked up a quick 10 wins where they knew they go 10-2 out of the first 12 games of the year. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they go, hey, we'll give you a couple snaps at the beginning of each of these games just to keep you in rhythm. But yeah, we're not going to play the whole game and risk you getting hurt when we have this division locked up and we have a home playoff game or two locked up. That's not out of the question, especially with an aging quarterback that has an injury history. But you can't depend on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess the reason I bring that up is because, obviously we're seeing that in the NBA, almost, to a fault. A lot of people are scrutinizing it, but, Tony Romo could be on a roster tomorrow, and I think Tony Romo being on your roster already brings you, 7-8 wins guaranteed. It seems the two teams that, are at the forefront for getting him. You're looking at Denver and Houston. Both of them have the defense to get you another 5 wins on top of that. So,
I think if he goes to Houston, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I I would agree. I mean, they have the offensive weapons to go with Romo. And to be fair, Denver does as well. But
I just feel like their defense is probably taking a step back behind Houston's now.
I would agree. I would agree there. But I guess where I'm trying to get to is the idea that I understand teams are scared of wanting to get Tony Romo for him to have a season-ending injury week 5.
Yeah.
And that's why, I bring the rest question into place because, we're starting to see that. You see that all the time in baseball already, but that's a 180 whatever game season. So I just wonder, are we going to start to get to a point where we see the rest being utilized in football?
It's hard to imagine that it becomes a common thing in football just because there's so few games.
Yeah.
Like you said, in baseball you have 162 games. Basketball you have 82 games. So
yeah,
you can afford to rest your players for a game here and there just to make sure. I'm sorry about the dog. Here and there just to make sure that they get the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I could see it happening where a team signs Tony Romo and says we're gonna start you 10 games this season, and here are the 10 you're gonna start for us, or here's the 10 where you're gonna play all 4 quarters, win or lose in the other 4, 6, whatever games. They're saying you might only play a half, like winning or losing. Like they may, happening because I think Tony Romo is good enough, but like I said, the teams are just scared of the injury factor.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest elephant in the room. There is just he's a high potential, high risk, high reward.
Yeah,
signee, tradey, whatever. Which is why I think most teams would rather sign him. So you could probably give him a short-term contract, load up incentives on it. So if he does get injured, you may not be on the hook for as much money, but you put incentives on it. If you make it into week whatever, you get us to the playoffs, you throw for this many yards, you get this many more $1 million. That's probably the type of contract somebody would like to work out with him instead of trading for him and owing him whatever 18 million or whatever it is he's due, or that he would be due this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Now, how do you feel about the Colin Kaepernick situation? Was the stance for last year? Was it still just hurting him right now? Why people won't pick him up, or is it just his talent, or what? Like, why is he not being signed right now?
Well, I mean, I at this point, I think it's pretty much clear that it's more so due to last year why he hasn't found the team. But there's been reporting, rumored that like teams are scared to get him because they're scared of the president sending them a mean tweet. So it's like, okay, like really, yeah, like,
oh man,
you're scared about this. I mean, punk move, but I mean, like, each of these teams are their own separate entity, so they have the right to not sign somebody just as much as they have the right to sign somebody. But I mean, when Mike Lennon signs a big like a reasonable starter's contract, when he's been benched and drafted, a replacement drafted for him, and he's back getting starter money, when you have a guy that's still not far removed from going to a Super Bowl, and even though he played for a terrible team, what do you have, like 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions last year? Got on the field. I mean, that's not bad numbers to look at there. And he showed better pocket presence than he's had over the last few years. So it's definitely not a situation where they can go, well, the talent's not there, or he showed a great decline. Like that was covered that people could use in the Ray Rice situation. Just even if they really didn't want that media storm, they could say, hey, last year he averaged 2.3 yards carry. So we really don't think we should even look at him. But, Kaepernick actually had a reasonably decent season where he showed he was probably better than probably 5 or 10 starting quarterbacks right now. I think his numbers bear that out. So it's kind of weird that nobody would look at him.
Yeah, just real quick, 2,241 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 4 INTs, and 460 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns running. So pretty good. 59% from the field, passing. So pretty good, decent numbers, considering how bad the team was. But yeah.
Yeah, and he was throwing to nobody last year.
Yeah.
Torrey Smith was his best receiver?
Him or Jeremy Curley.
So yeah, take your pick. Who wants that to be your number one receiver? Either of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Darnell. I think more of it is his political stance and the media frenzy that follows it. I agree that that's what's hindering him more than his ability. I am shocked that no one has at least signed him and said, all right, you'll start the year as our backup and we'll see what happens. He's good enough for at least that position. And I think we'd all agree that, hands down, he's good enough for that position. And like you said, you could make a case for him starting for probably 4 teams very easily, and you probably can make a little bit of a stronger case for 6 teams. But, I think we're just all in agreement that it's his political stance holding him back and not his play. Now, granted, 2015, he had a rough year, but he only started 8 games. We're living in a different age where some stuff will get you accepted in society and heard at your place of employment, and vice versa. So it's a very interesting situation. He kind of took the league by storm last year, and my thing is we all survived the 2016 season. Nobody's any worse for wear, mentally, because he chose to take a knee during the national anthem. Just some people decided to scream louder than others about it, and unfortunate for him, it seems to have cost him a spot on a roster.
Yeah, and just to touch just one more thing on that, the media deal about it was huge, but did it really affect the 49ers? They weren't talented enough to really win many games, but yeah, there didn't seem to be any dysfunction in the locker room. His teammates actually awarded him something along the likes of Man of the Year award type deal for their team. So if his team was supporting it like that, really, how much of a distraction would he be coming to another place? And that more so just makes it seem like this is the team worried about their media perception. Even though if somebody really took the time and tried to point out things about him, you could probably spin this as a positive. Yes, he did do the kneeling, which upset a lot of people, but he practiced when he was preaching. A lot of people said they didn't agree with his method, but he also backed it up with donating time and money.
Meals on Wheels.
Year,
I think he just went to Africa, donated food and whatnot. Yeah. So, he's practicing what he's preaching. So,
yeah, and another point toward you, Darnell. What was it? By week 3 or 4, it was kind of background noise. It wasn't front page news anymore.
Yeah.
There were games like Brandon Marshall from the Broncos started to kneel, and the national anthem would be played during the game. They would pan on him, talk about him for maybe 30 seconds, and then it was game time. And we're talking about the game. We're not talking about the kneeling stuff anymore. So we choose to make an issue what we choose to make an issue of. And I think teams are more just scared of the public backlash they could receive more than anything else. And like you said, it's kind of a punk move, but
and a little bit just hypocritical because nothing against this kid, but reports are now Joe Mixon might be a first or second round pick. That's weird. Hello?
Yeah.
Did you ask a question there?
Well, yeah, but repeat what you was just saying. Yeah, because you kind of.
Well, I'm saying like going on another side, just like something that's actually wrong and egregious. Like it's nothing against him. I hope he learned from it and is growing from it. But Mixon is now being looked at like he'll be a first or second round pick.
Yeah.
When that video came out, he wasn't invited to the combine. And everybody was saying, "Oh, people might not touch this kid. He might have to be a unsigned free agent, or he might be a fifth or sixth round pick." But now, just some time passed, and he might be drafted on the first day, which his talent does speak to that. Talent wise, if he didn't clock a girl on video, he would be a first or second round pick. But if a team can do that with a straight face, but can't sign a guy that didn't do anything illegal, just kind of stood up for or kneeled for a cause that he felt strongly about. It's like, okay, where are your guys' heads at? Like, on one side, you're looking at it as a football move that you want to win games, and here you want to make a moral stand.
Yeah, and I've said it basically since the official ruling came down. I've always said I felt Ray Rice, he was the example. He got made an example. And we look at guys getting suspended 10 games. Ray Rice still isn't on our roster. I think he's at the point where he, still has a small glimmer of hope, but is probably facing the music and moving on. Now Goodell got heat for, the original 4-game suspension that Ray Rice was given. He said, you know what, you're out of the league. So it's kind of like, we pick and choose our battles, what we want to be made more serious than not. I don't know whether to attribute that to Roger Goodell, to attribute that to the media, and to a point, I think it's a mixture of kind of every source you can imagine. But, like you said, Joe Mixon could be drafted day one. Well, they only do the first round, day one now, but, it's just funny how things end up playing out, because you can look at scenarios very similar to this one and they have completely different outcomes.
All right, guys. Now, anything else to you add for the NFL?
No. Got it.
All right. Yeah. Okay, up next, we're about to hit up the NBA. Just right now, recently the Cavs just got annihilated by the Spurs. I think they lost by close to 30 points, I believe. Should they be worried about that loss going forward, especially getting close to playoff time?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes and no. I think you should be concerned about it, because if you're trying to be a title contender, you probably shouldn't lose to anybody by 30, especially full strength. You could argue Kevin Love's still kind of gaining his bearings, but, you have LeBron, who made a 6-game series by himself 2 years ago in the finals. And you could also argue he may have a little bit better of a supporting cast now than he did a couple of years ago. So, losing by 30 is never a good thing. I think that should raise concern for the Cavaliers, whether you lose by 30 to the Warriors, the Spurs, or the Timberwolves. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be losing by 30 ever. But I also think that they need to just keep a perspective that one game in the regular season isn't the championship. That's not the difference between, taking home the Larry O'Brien trophy or going home without it. they're still focused on trying to be the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, which is a closer race than a lot of people would have thought. They're going to have to fight their way through the East this year, which is something they haven't had to say lately. I think Boston would give them a good run in the series. I think Washington could take them to 6, potentially 7. But it seems like when the playoffs roll around, LeBron turns into a different animal. And that's enough to carry the Cavaliers, really. So, yes, they should be concerned on some level, but I don't think it should be to the point where they start, to second guess themselves on decision making with the team.
It's getting close to worry time, in my opinion. I feel like Cleveland's getting a little bit too much of they're getting overconfident, getting a little too relaxed. As they've been to the finals 2 years in a row. It seems like some of their players feel like it's a given that they'll turn it on come the playoffs. I kind of feeling like the Lakers that year they played the Pistons in the finals, where they
Thanks
just
for
felt like
that up, man.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up.
Well, it's just outside of LeBron. I mean, he's been having career numbers for himself, but I just feel like the rest of the team is kind of coasting through games where they think when the time comes and they need it, they'll just turn it on. Where things don't always work like that, even if you have a super talented team like they have. I mean, they can't seem to guard anybody. Like Ty said, the East seems a lot closer this year. Like, I don't think they're going to go through the Eastern Conference side losing one game again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a few teams in here that are going to give them some fights. They might be able to sweep the first round, but Toronto can get a game from them. They showed it last year. Washington can probably get a game or two out of them, and Boston might be able to take them to 7 or beat them. It'll be two teams not guarding each other, scoring 100 plus on each other, but that Boston's fine playing that way. That's how they played all year. And, it's getting to be a little nerve wracking watching Cleveland, a team that went pretty much lockdown on Golden State last year. Not being able to guard anybody outside of who LeBron is covering. It's going to take more this year because they're going to be more. They're going to be a little more beat up if they get to the finals this year. It's not going to be that easy road they had last year.
Do you guys think that they're overdoing the rest thing? Do you think they're doing it too frequently, or do you think what they're doing is perfectly fine?
I think the media is overplaying the rest thing.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying do you agree with it. Do you think?
No, I'm giving the whole reason there. Because when you look at it, like I think for Cleveland's sake, the only times LeBron, Kyrie, and Love have sat for actual rest, it's only been 3 or 4 times each. So it's not like they've missed 10, 12 games this year or something like that. They've missed not even a 10th of the season. So I just feel like that. I feel like that's a little overdone. I know it's annoying from a fan perspective, especially if you this is the one game of the year you're going to, and LeBron's not on the court, or Curry's not on the court, or whoever you want to see is not on the court. But it's not like they're doing this once a week. I'm sitting, somebody's getting a DNP rest. They're doing it in strategic ways. I mean, if you've gone on a 12-day road trip to play 5 or 6 teams on the road, you want to protect your best players. I mean, I'm sorry, people. We've gotten to a day and age where science does rule a lot for these franchises in these leagues. The numbers show if you exhaust yourself, if you're running on fumes, you're more likely to hurt yourself. So the way to fix that, unless the league wants to fix it by doing better with scheduling, maybe shortening the season up. Some players have mentioned that. I know the players of the early 90s and the 80s, they think
I was just about to say,
weakening.
Man, look at your man Jordan. I know a couple weeks ago, Karl Malone, he issued in on it. He was talking about with arrests. He was like, you have people out there like police officers and whatnot, putting their life on the line for their jobs, not getting rest, anything like that. And here you are playing a basketball game. Like, what are you sitting out for? Man up, go out there and play. So,
but with all due respect to that, my dad's a retired police officer, so I mean, I'm not disrespecting the police or anything like that, but they're not sprinting for 48 minutes. They're driving around in cars for the most part, and they put themselves in life and death situations for sure. They deserve to be paid more than they're being paid, but they're day to day. They're not, as long as they're not in an area where, you're on high alert, you might have to pull your gun at any second. Like in the city I live in, where you don't have too much violent crime here. So they're not putting their body in as much risk as an NBA player. Like, as far as to tire themselves out. It's long hours, you might get sleepy. You probably need some more sleep or something like that. And I can totally agree and empathize with that, but to compare a policeman, what they're doing, or the shifts that they're working, to somebody whose body is their job, I guess to say, it was a poor and intellectually invalid comparison. That's just the only way I can put it. But I mean, just say you're mad because you didn't take rest. You played 82 a year. That's fine. You're a tough guy, Malone. Nobody would ever deny that. You're one of the greats. And back in your day, players they toughed it out through all of them 82. But and people used to play football with leather helmets. All right, should we go back to that?
I'll take a little bit more of a cheap shot than you just did, Darnell. I'm sorry you don't have a ring, Karl Malone.
Oh, okay.
I'll say it.
Oh man.
I'll go ahead and say that.
Right. It is what it is, man.
But honestly, it's like when things start to go different is when. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, the culture of the NBA is changing. A lot of people who are, more old school in their fandom for the NBA, a lot of them want to see the 3-point line gone. A lot of them don't like Golden State.
Yep.
It's like when things start to change, those who love it the old way are the ones that speak up the loudest.
Uh-huh.
And, LeBron's, this isn't the first year he's taken rest nights. He has He has a couple rings. Curry has a ring.
Spurs have 5, and Popovich has been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, my thing is, it's proving to work. It's made 15-year careers, 20-year careers.
Exactly.
I mean, does the NBA want to see 4 more years of LeBron James or 6 more years of LeBron James? I'll take 6 more of LeBron. I won't complain about that if I can watch him put up 30.
And that's the key right there. I'm pretty sure if Karl Malone was playing in this day and age, they said if he had some personal trainer, nutritionist, or whatever, and said I can get probably 4 or 5 more good years out of you over what you had, and all it's going to take is we change up your diet a little bit, and we'll probably sit you 5 to 6 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
Who wouldn't take that? I mean, if for a chance, more chances of championships, and hey, your bank account will be 5 years heavier.
Yeah. I mean, like, look at some of the players. Granted, injuries have taken a toll on this a little bit, but look at some of the players that are still playing that are going on or coming close to 20 years. Like Dirk's still playing. Tim Duncan played for 20. Kobe played for 20 something. Granted, and like I said, some injuries played a factor in some of this quote unquote rest, if you will. But, careers can be pushed to that 20-year mark now. LeBron's going to push it easily. LeBron may pass it.
Yeah, and those last years of Kobe, maybe if there were some rest periods, or because Kobe's more built out of that old school player type of mold. But hey, maybe if he would have sat some of those seasons when he was in his mid-30s, early mid-30s,
38 minutes a game, during that period and stuff.
Yeah, maybe he would still be putting up numbers. Yeah.
So I mean, the thing is, we can see careers extended because of some of this rest, and it's not like they're sitting half the season. At the most, you might see them sit 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, that's a fraction.
Now, just looking at it, could you see this, with these players resting, could this hurt the NBA brand at all? Because I know, I was disappointed a couple weeks ago. I think it was Golden State versus Spurs or something like that. It was a Saturday night primetime game, and both teams rested all their top guys. So didn't get a chance to see that, especially primetime. That didn't happen. So you had fans, watching from home. Then you had people who, bought tickets to the game, thought they were going to see, the best players go out there and clash. But it didn't happen. So is there any way you guys could think, just with these guys resting, this could really start to hurt the NBA's brand in a real negative way?
I mean, in the short term, yes. Just because people, like Ty was just talking about, people that have trouble with change, things going differently. And, I mean, just to not only throwing a shot here at Karl Malone, but just the public in general, we hate to see just as people, uber rich people taking advantage of certain situations or wanting to be treated better as laborers. Usually the response is you make millions of dollars, you play a game, but it's like I said, but the game that they're playing is running up and down the court if you're a star for 30 plus minutes a game. And basically putting on the show for you, breaking down their own bodies. So I think it's just going to take time for people to understand yes, they're getting paid lots of money, but they're putting a pounding on themselves to do this too. So to extend their own health and value to be able to play this game, allow you to watch them for more time, you might have to get used to them only playing 75 out of 82 games or 70 out of 80. But it's 70 out of 80 games. You might be that unlucky one. There might be one day I buy a ticket to Little Caesars Arena to go see the Pistons play the Cavs, or the Pistons play Golden State to try to let my son see LeBron or Steph Curry, but it might have to be a rest night. It'll suck. I'll probably be a little bit annoyed myself, but I work a full-time job. I get paid days off. So if I'm not feeling it, I'm able to call in. So why can't they?
Hear you there. All right, guys. Now, anything left to add for this rest issue?
No, I think we hit some of the key points on it. With I think Darnell just makes a good point too. It's the fact that granted they may only play 3-4 times at most a week, but if you're playing back to back on the road, I forgot where I heard it, but I saw or read it, but I saw a statistic that basically said most injuries occur on a back to back on the road.
Yeah, on the back end, the second game of
the second game of a back-to-back on the road. So it's like, they sit on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, now, to your point, Trey, I think they could be a little more selective. Prime time Saturday night, 8:00, ABC, Spurs, Warriors, should probably play.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, local coverage at Milwaukee. You can take a seat, like, for all I care.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't really care if you choose to sit the primetime game. Like Darnell said, it'd be annoying, but whatever, I guess. It's their career. It's not mine.
Yeah.
I'll let them make the decision.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think in the future the league is going to step in and try to become smarter with some of the scheduling. Probably less of these back-to-backs, especially a team making a road trip playing back-to-back at travel between two states. And it's probably not the best idea to run and play the hard out 40 minutes and then have to, in all honesty, these guys are very tall gentlemen to have to load up on a bus or a plane or something like that and be cramped up and go to the next state, get 6-8 hours of sleep and have to go through their full day motion and go do it again. Mm-hmm. This is where the league as a whole is going to have to look at some of this, like I said, science starting to rule everything. So it gets you the max value out of your teams and players. If you can schedule better so these people are fresh whenever you have them on the court, they're more likely to be able to play majority or all of the games. Keep your stars on the court. Don't have KD sitting out right now. Don't have Kevin Love who missed 3 months of the season. It's just going to come down to a collaborative deal. If you want them on the court all the time, you're going to have to shorten up the schedule, or you're going to have to do better with scheduling, lengthen how long the end of the season goes. So you can space out those games.
Now, out of all the teams in the NBA, which team do you guys think is playing the best basketball right now?
I'd probably go with the Spurs.
I'm definitely going with them watching this first quarter starting right now. And I'll run the start. It looks like the Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them lacking really in any major areas. They play really good defense. Kawhi Leonard is, shut down there. Kawhi was basically leader on both ends of the floor, to be honest. Okay. You got energy in Patty Mills. You got some youth mixed in with the vets, and really, one thing I always say, wins in March Madness is good guard play and good coaching. I'll still say, good coaching can win in the NBA, and Greg Popovich is great coaching. So. I like the Spurs. I like them defensively, offensively. They're winning big games against big teams. And when you beat the Cavs by 30, you're not going to go, it was just lucky. Spurs been doing this all season. They haven't lost to Cleveland or Golden State this year, I believe. So, I'll take Spurs all day.
Yeah, I think I'll roll with the Spurs too. Just they're playing at full strength. Golden State has picked it up. They were looking a little sketchy when Durant first got hurt. They picked it up. So they're playing good basketball. They picked back up the defensive intensity without having their 6'10" swing man on the court. But yeah, overall, I think they have to be consistent all year, and they're still just playing that way. And I can't wait to see a finals matchup of both those teams at full strength. Western Conference finals matchup.
Yeah, if I had to pick a second team here, just because I don't think we can discredit what Boston's doing right now. They've won 4 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10, took over the top spot in the East. I mean, you can't look past that either. Isaiah Thomas is really, taking control of that team, that franchise. He's playing at a very high level. Darnell touched on earlier, their downside's their defense. They'll give up 100 a game, but they'll score 110. But I like the way Boston plays. I like their roster. And I think they need to get a lot of notice too. Another good coach. Another good coach in Brad Stevens, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep. Future Hoosiers coach, right?
Not with Archie Miller on the way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he wouldn't. I don't think he'd leave that.
All right, just to talk about Russell Westbrook for a quick bit, just with his triple doubles. He just got his 38th triple double of the season. Tonight he got 57 points, 13 boards, 11 assists. So he has 38 right in the, went off, man. He has 38. He's 3 away from Oscar Robertson's 41. I think he has 8 games left of the season. Do you guys think he will tie it, break the record, fall short, or what?
You said he's 3 away?
3 away, yep. 30. He has 38. Yeah, 3 away with 8 games left of the season, I believe.
I think he will beat it by 5 games. Seriously.
8 straight triple doubles he's about to get now, huh?
I mean, why not? Why not? But in all seriousness, I think he'll beat the record. A lot of people kind of frown upon it because a lot of people are like, well, he's not shooting that great of a percentage. It's kind of like, well, he's all the team has. He has to take that many shots.
Yeah.
But he's doing everything. Yeah. But I mean, it's incredible what he's doing. I think he'll beat the record. I wouldn't be surprised, with 8 games to go, he's 3 away from the record. If he picks up at least 5 more, I think.
Just real quick, next game.
I think he'll beat it by a couple, though.
Yeah, his next game is playing the Spurs. Then they have the Hornets, the Bucks, the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets again.
Oh, he'll definitely get one against the Suns.
Yeah, since they're taking it out.
No doubt there. He's going to get a quadruple double, and Devin Booker's going to score 80.
Man.
But yeah, I agree. I think he at least ties it. I do think he breaks it. Just, Russ is doing everything he can to drag this team as far as he can get them into the playoffs. So I for sure think he beats it. And everybody's saying it's a done deal that Harden has the MVP locked up, and I don't think he likes hearing that. We all know Russ has a chip on his shoulder the size of Oklahoma City, so he's going to play to try to show it.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think he'll. I don't know. I think he's either going to tie it or break it, man.
No, Trey, he's going to break it. Come on.
But yeah,
come on.
Just looking at, I think with just the Suns and he's playing the Nuggets twice, I think he can definitely get it against those matchups. But either way, man,
I think he gets one against the better teams that he plays.
I'm
thinking one against the Spurs.
Yeah,
I think he'll get one on Memphis.
Memphis, yeah, that could happen. Like I said, man, how the guys just been playing. He's just keeping those guys, his teammates, into the game just by himself, man. So. If he needs to put up 50, he'll do it. If he needs to grab 15 boards, he'll do it. He's just willing his way, keeping his team into the game. So, he could definitely break it. But he's just doing his thing, man. He's phenomenal.
Trey, what do you mean Russ Westbrook's keeping them in the game? He has them as the 6th seed. That's unbelievable.
I know, he has them in the 6th seed, but he's having some close games.
But it is literally just him.
Yeah.
It's what he's doing to me is literally unbelievable.
Yeah.
I would have picked them to not even make playoffs.
I didn't even have
Like,
making
I thought at best they were an AC at best, and I thought he'd have to have a season like this to do it.
Yeah, currently they are the 6th seed, 17.5 back, but they are
2 games out of the 4th.
Yeah, but they're 6.5 ahead of the 8th seed. Wow. And that's all Westbrook.
Yeah, they're safely in the playoffs, and he actually has a chance. Like, if things fall right, they could sneak into the top half of the playoff. Mm-hmm. I mean, and if they did that, I don't care how good the Rockets' record is. I think if you drag that team, him, Oladipo, and nobody else, basically.
Yeah.
And if he was able to pull them to a 4 seed, come on.
Well, the way I see it, I mean, I if I had a vote, I'd vote for Westbrook hands down. I mean, like you said, Harden shooting a better percentage. He's leading a better roster. Mm-hmm. So they should have a better record. But at the end of the day, I don't think I've ever seen anybody average a triple-double. I don't think I've seen. Well, I have seen LeBron single-handedly carry the Cavaliers to the finals, but, nobody would have expected this, ever.
Now, let me ask you guys this. Russell Westbrook, he's been playing out of his mind, doing all that has to, have a toll on his body. Do you think, they should consider, resting him a couple of games, getting close to playoff time?
No days
keep
off.
It going?
No days off. You're not going to break the record resting. Not at this point. I mean, at this point, I don't see any value in resting him.
Well, and just like I was saying, just for seeding purposes, I think they would rather, if they could sneak into sneak up a spot or two and end up playing, say, the Clippers or Utah in the first round. I think they would rather do that than have to deal with Houston or San Antonio or something like that. I think they have to play him because if he's not on the court, that's just a given. Yeah. Like whoever they're playing, if Westbrook is not on the team, that's a college team.
Yeah.
So they have to have it. Like this isn't a situation where they don't have the luxury of the rest of the play. Because their team is not good enough to build up a cushion like that to where they know they have home court almost through or to the Western Conference Final. They have to have it. His production is absolutely needed, which is, I mean, another reason why I say I feel like if you have a guy that if he's not on the court, he definitely lose. That's pretty damn valuable.
Yeah. Now, top the NBA off, we got to talk about them Pistons. Do you guys have faith they'll get the 8th spot?
No. Nope. Trey, we talked about them earlier this year, and you kind of asked the question, what's wrong with the Pistons? I think I've pinpointed it, because after we had that conversation, I watched them play Boston. And, Detroit fought their way back into the game. It was kind of close in the 4th. Detroit cut it to a game. Yeah. No, this one may have been in Boston.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
That was
they played them a couple.
The Rip's number retirement, that was against Boston. That was at that.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the one on the road. So they made it a 1-possession game in the 4th, and then Isaiah Thomas took over. What the Pistons are really missing is someone with the killer instinct to shut a team out, to close the door on them. They just don't do that. They don't lock down on D at a critical point in the game. It seems like they can never really get a bucket if they're, really needing one. They just don't have someone with the killer instinct. I thought it was going to be Reggie Jackson. When we signed him, I thought he was going to be the one to bring the attitude back to Detroit. And dude's not even starting. Yeah. Ish Smith's starting over him right now.
And I said, man, with the injury he had, it can be tough.
And I agree. But I mean, I'm not seeing attitude out of anybody on that roster.
It's fair,
And I can't really blame Stan Van Gundy for it. I don't know if he's tried to light a fire under someone's behind or not, but it's almost too late. I think they've lost 8 of 9.
Yeah.
After being in like the 8 or the 7 spot, which is unbelievable. Like that's
they've
terrible.
lost 5 straight.
That's terrible.
2 and 8 out of their last 10. I just feel like this is another example of, at least in the NBA, the coach / president of operations GM type deal. It just doesn't seem to work out well.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of Pat Riley, that was stepping down the coach after he had already put together with the Heat, and the team put together had 3 of 6 best players in the league. It just doesn't seem to work out well. I just feel like probably with Stan, he needs to relinquish the GM role or the coach role, one or the other. They get another guy in there so these jobs can be singular focused and they can put something together and maybe, because there's talent on this team, but it's either not put together well or it's not coached well.
Yeah.
And looking at both of those situations, it's the same guy to blame. Is it because he's looking ahead to see who he can replace certain player A with, or is it because he's focusing so hard on trying to coach these guys and having to play a way that he wants to play? He's not looking at the right players to fit whatever scheme he wants to run. So I feel like this offseason, talk to see if they can restructure his role. I think Stan's a good basketball mind. I think he's a good coach, especially with young players, which is why I'm surprised that they've been so bad this year. But I mean, I think I've come down to this too much on this play. Pick a lane and work on that one.
All right, guys.
I mean,
go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, real quick. Do you think? I think the Pistons are a good example of a roster that doesn't want to take the star player route, so they're going to get a bunch of basically role player type guys and just throw that out on the floor every night. Do you think that this kind of shows that you need at least one star player out there?
Well, I'm not sure because, I mean, all everybody was saying at the end of last year is basically everybody thought of Drummond as a star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
He doesn't seem to have enough upstairs to really be a star. I've come to that conclusion. Like Reggie wants to be a star, but he's just not. Mm-hmm. He's not there. But so I mean, it's hard to say they don't have one because Drummond is talented enough to be a star outside of not being able to make free throws.
Yeah, he's kind of been a letdown for me this year. Like, out of all the Pistons guys, I like Drummond, and just kind of just looking at him play.
Yeah, the last couple of years. Last couple of years for me, he's been a little bit of a letdown. Now, granted, every once in a while he gets a big monster rebounding game, but the one thing that's kind of bothered me with the Pistons, in the last handful of years is they haven't drafted well at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, their best draft pick in the last 5 years has probably been, since post-Drummond. I can't even remember how long ago we drafted Drummond, to be quite honest. But, after we drafted Drummond, our best draft pick's probably been Stanley Johnson, and the dude plays like 8 minutes a game. The guy sometimes doesn't even make it on the floor. So I think one positive here for Detroit could be, they fall out of the playoffs, they get in the lottery, and they have at least a chance of picking up somebody. I'm not saying they're going to get a top 10 pick, but at least being in that top 16, you're looking to get a player that at least has some very big upside. You're not resorting to a second round draft pick and taking Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, like right now they seem to be stuck in a cycle of drafting projects that seem to have a little bit of upside, but it's going to take time. They either need to put some pieces together and make a trade to get a solid foundation piece that they can work with and build around. Yeah, or tank a season and hopefully luck up on the top 5-10 pick.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think tanking's in the cards for the Pistons. To be honest, they would have to be sellers at some point. They'd have to start trading guys away for nothing or for draft picks. If they wanted to go that route, and I honestly just don't see them doing it. Even though I wouldn't mind it, because I think the Pistons just need a total rebuild. To be honest,
they definitely need to blow it up. I don't see them doing it though, since next year they start a new arena and everything. So they want to have a decent team on the floor. But
yeah, I mean, like, and I'll even admit it, I like their roster right now. Like, I like that team. I like a lot of the pieces they have. Just not cutting it.
Yeah, like if they still want to be competitive, they're going to have to figure out some way. I think they're going to have to get rid of probably Drummond and Reggie.
Yeah.
And start from there. I think you still have enough pieces where you get a couple decent players where you can compete for a lower playoff spot. Maybe you can keep one of them, but I think probably both of them are damaged goods for us. And he probably would be better off to use his pieces to send elsewhere and try to get us some players to try to build and to work off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree there.
All right, guys. Anything else to add for the Pistons or NBA in general?
No days off. No days off. All right.
Gotcha,
I had to throw that in there a couple times.
All right, we're about to go to NCAA basketball. First things first, we're about to start off with Ty squad. The Wolverines, University of Michigan, had a pretty impressive run in March Madness tournament. Just what are your thoughts on this team this season?
Yeah, the end of the season was more pleasing than the first half, really. I don't know. Very average Big Ten regular season. They ended up winning 8 of their last 10, I believe, going into the Big Ten tournament, which, there was some bright side there. They kind of moved themselves past being on the bubble and getting into the tournament. You just figured, win at least one game in the Big Ten tournament and just secure your spot in the big dance. And, we'll see what the seeding is from there. They had that moment with the plane running off the runway and all the players saying that was a kind of a scary moment. And, I could imagine, you don't really know what's happening and your plane's out of control. Thankfully nobody was severely hurt, injured, or killed. Just some guys were banged up. People on the plane were banged up as well, but, I think first and foremost, nobody being severely hurt was the good news there. But they had a really, really good run in the Big Ten tournament. They got hot. I think, a lot of people say, the plane crash, gave them a new perspective, all this and that. But, the thing I think I loved about it the most was they came out the first game of the Big Ten tournament, played in their practice jerseys. Like, one, you just never see that. But two, you could tell that the guys looked really relaxed. They went out there and just played. They got to a real quick, big victory over Illinois and kind of never looked back in the Big Ten tournament. Had a nice win in the end over, a good Wisconsin squad. And they proved that by beating Villanova in the tournament. So, winning the Big Ten tournament just kind of made it, a really good season. One that, a lot of people weren't too sure of halfway through. And that was just more than anybody really asked for. And that would have left a good taste in the mouth after, the regular season that we watched and witnessed some highs and some lows. But then getting into the national tournament, they had a shootout against Oklahoma State. Darnell even said at that game, both teams will probably be in the 90s, and both teams were. They just held on late and, didn't play great basketball, but, shot the three really well in the second half. And I think they made 16 for the game. So they played to their strength there. And then, the game I thought they would lose, they paired up against Louisville, played a heck of a game. They, surprised everybody, beating them but not shooting the three ball. They were playing good offense, good defense, and just really grinded one out. And that kind of, I think, set kind of the bar, or that put Michigan over the bar that had been set. I don't know really many people that had them beating Louisville. None of us thought they would, and I think that was a very fair thing to think. But, they beat them, and after that, I kind of thought to myself, I don't really care what happens next, because that already made it, a pretty good season. So I wasn't too disappointed at all with them losing to Oregon. Oregon's, they came out, beat Kansas. They actually are getting hotter as the tournament's going on, which is kind of odd. A lot of teams kind of plateau in the tournament. We see them, just kind of staying at a really good level, but they're getting hotter as the games move on, which is very impressive to see. They had a really nice win over Kansas the other night, but Michigan versus Oregon, I thought it was a very sloppy game from both sides. Nobody really played great. Oregon just made more shots in the second half. Michigan hurt themselves with a bunch of turnovers, which is very uncharacteristic. They were missing some easy shots. But those are the breaks. That's the game. And Oregon's representing the Midwest region. So, overall, I think this season was very successful in a lot of ways. Being really strong in the second half of the season, definitely leaves a better taste in your mouth than kind of fading out in the end. But, I didn't expect them to make the Sweet 16. They had a very, very real chance to make the Elite Eight. But now we look forward. Michigan will be losing some key parts. Some key parts will be returning. So it'll be interesting to see what they throw on the floor next year.
Yeah, their season was definitely two sides of the coin. How they started out looked like it was going to be a rough season for them. People were early starting to try to call for the beeline to be out. But, amazing run that ended. Derek Walton became the point guard that everybody expected him to be. Basically a month before the Big Ten tournament and on through the NCAA tournament. Stepped up and started doing big things. And people were even trying to talk about Wagner coming out and declaring for the draft. I don't know if that last game did a lot for him, but as a whole team, they started playing great. And a couple people probably did up their chances of making it to the NBA. I'm figuring Walton might get drafted now, and I think there's a chance DJ Wilson declares.
All right, guys. Now, what was your thoughts on just the games last week?
Okay.
Yeah, I thought for the most part the games were actually pretty decent. I think you could, take a lot out of the Gonzaga game, even though they won by 20 or so. I mean, they've always kind of been the odd team out when it came to the NCAA tournament. They'd get a 1 seed and then lose in the Sweet 16 or something like that. And then, you always kind of say, well, that's what you get for being in a weak conference. But, I really think Gonzaga took the leap this year. They played a very strong out-of-conference schedule, beat a lot of really good teams, and it's paying off. Granted, beating Xavier wasn't the toughest possible test they could have had, but it was how the tournament played out, and it's who they had to play, and they took care of business. And I think a lot can still be seen out of that Gonzaga game. It shows they're for real. It shows that, they're not going to just go away in this tournament. And I think that they're making a very strong case for themselves to potentially win it all.
Yeah. This week was interesting seeing because, you're getting these last teams coming in. So it was a weird mix. You had games that were close that you expected to be close. Some games that you expected to be close turned into blowouts, and some blowouts you had the team that you didn't expect to get blown out to be blown out, basically. Most of us expected a tight game with West Virginia and Gonzaga. A few of us were even leaning West Virginia in it. We did get that tight game, but Gonzaga pulled it out. Every ball bounced their way late in that game to make sure they would pull it out. You had Kansas looking like how they looked 2 weeks ago, where basically it's like, I don't know who beats this team because they're beating everybody by 20 and 30 points. Had a nice game with Xavier in Arizona. You had a nice close game with Oregon and Michigan. Came down to the last second shot. It was a good open look, just didn't fall. Moved to Friday. We had the marquee game. Wasn't as fun of a game as we wanted with Kentucky. We had Lonzo Ball kind of have his first bad game that everybody's seen him play. And De'Aaron Fox just kind of lit him up for almost 40. And then, just other games kind of went how you expected. You had UNC kind of putting in the Butler, nice looking run. We had another surprise with, South Carolina just running Baylor off the court. And then we had the late night, crazy game with the buzzer beater for back-to-back shots. That happened twice this past week. But with Wisconsin and Florida, that one ended in spectacular fashion with a late 3 from Florida to move ahead. Saturday was kind of because both games weren't really that great. Gonzaga ran away with it from Xavier, and then we had another shocker with Oregon just locking up Kansas. Kansas was looking like the best team in America, and Oregon just wouldn't let them do anything. Just that big athletic team, that was the kryptonite for them. And leading us to Sunday, we had a great back and forth with Kentucky and UNC. 2 big shots back to back. UNC has a walk-on win the game for them. And then South Carolina continues their Cinderella run and beats another SEC team that they were used to playing and taking out Florida. And our Final Four is set.
Yeah, I only touched on Gonzaga because I kind of have a follow-up question for a couple of teams, so I kind of wanted you to talk about them a little more. And I'll start with Kansas. Is this just typical Kansas now? High seed, kind of bail out before the Final Four. Is that just kind of who Kansas is?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of just that Duke of the Midwest. Yeah. They get lots of talent. They kill it in the regular season. They get a high seed, and they, even when it seems like everything should be set for them to go all the way and win, somehow they find a way to screw it up. They have gotten a title under Bill Self, but for the most part, there's a lot of disappointment. And the title they did get, it was a surprise. They were the underdog on that. Mm-hmm. And it was that miracle season with Mario Chalmers hitting buzzer beaters, big shots, small, whatever.
Yeah, because, I think you would even agree with me that Kansas looked pretty bad. Mm-hmm. They did not look good at all, either end of the floor. Granted, big guy for Oregon, Bell, almost came up with a triple-double.
Yeah.
Big game from him. And, props to Oregon. They've shown up big when a lot of people thought, we're just waiting for them to lose. So big, props to Oregon for at least making it to the Final Four and beating the team a lot of people thought was unstoppable. And then, another team, I have two more kind of quick questions for you. For Kentucky, I think we all kind of recognize the genius of Calipari with the one and dones, and he seems to make, decent runs in the tournament. But do you think he makes another championship game appearance? Or do you think the one and done thing is going to kind of continue to bite him?
I mean, for the most part, yes, it's probably going to bite him. But he's so good at getting just the best crop of those young players, where it seems to always work out for him. Every other school in America, they get, one of those, like one or two big freshmen. He gets 5. Yeah. And it's his calling card. So, I'll get you, if you play hard enough for me, we'll get deep. I may get you to a title. I may get you to a Final Four. I may get you to an Elite Eight. But if you come here, you play hard, I'm going to get you deep into the tournament. Outside of since he's been at Kentucky, he's only missed the second weekend once. It hasn't been off.
Yeah. I today watched the McDonald's All-America game, and Kentucky has 6 commits, 5 of them in the ESPN Top 100. So he's doing it again. Credit Calipari for continually bringing in the class he needs with, the era of the one and done that he's kind of created in college basketball. And then the last team I have the question about, because I don't think there's too many questions surrounding Gonzaga at this point.
Well, just a quick caveat though for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he makes another one as long as, I'm sorry, not trying to throw shade, but it's happened to him twice. Unless he gets investigated and hightails out of town like he did at UMass and Memphis.
Okay.
Well, it's happened twice. Do I just not act like it didn't happen?
Hey, I'll throw a plug out there. I will throw a plug out there. This is for ESPN 30 for 30. In a couple of weeks, the John Calipari 30 for 30 comes out. I'm going to be all over that. That is appointment viewing, also recording it to watch it again. That's how interested I'm going to be in that.
Oh, they actually have a Calipari 30 for 30?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's going to be good, and I think it's going to break down a lot of what happened at UMass and Memphis. So I think that's going to be very interesting to watch, and I think it's also going to break down his strategy for the one and done, or he'll at least talk about it, touch on it, whatever. But I think that's going to be super good. But yeah, lastly, South Carolina. I think there's no doubt about it that their strength is their defense.
Oh yeah,
and Thornwell. I actually really enjoy watching South Carolina play. They're a lot of fun to watch. Not many people say that about defensive teams. But with South Carolina, Frank Martin's doing an incredible job with these guys. Had them buy into what he was selling, and it's obviously paid off with the trip to the Final Four. The team seems to go as Thornwell goes, and for me, that kind of draws some issues because it's almost like if you stop Thornwell, it doesn't. He's averaging over 20 a game. It almost seems like there isn't enough on that roster to make up for it if he has a bad game. Do you think? I mean, obviously Gonzaga knows, if you're going to stop him, you're going to like your chance. But do you think Gonzaga is good enough defensively to stop South Carolina? And in turn, do you think South Carolina's defense would be good enough to win that game, even if Thornwell doesn't have a 20-plus point night?
No, they're not good enough to win.
Let's just get into it then. Yeah, South Carolina versus Gonzaga. Yeah, how do you guys feel? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go.
No, I don't think South Carolina is good enough to win if Thornwell doesn't have a big game, just because they don't have enough scoring punch otherwise. I know they had 2 early games where they just kind of went against what they've been all year. Having 60-point halves when they've only scored over 65 in total twice during the regular season. So no, I don't think they could survive him having a bad game. But on the plus side, I don't think Gonzaga has enough to really lock him down. He would just have to be cold. So if he can play his game, he's going to get 20 points. Not saying Gonzaga can't beat them even if he has a good game, but I don't think they have anybody that could just get up in there and lock him down. I do think South Carolina has enough defense to cause trouble for Gonzaga. Like I think Williams Goss is going to have a tough night. I think he's not going to be able to get to the basket when he wants. I think South Carolina has the defense to keep him out of driving lanes, and they're going to force other players to beat him. And that's what it's going to come down to. Can Gonzaga get enough ball movement from other parts of the court and figure out other ways to score from outside of having their star guard initiate them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, South Carolina doesn't really shoot the 3 all too much. I don't know if that's because they don't do it very well, or it's just not a part of their game plan. I mean, I think it could be a combination of the two, But one player that I think is going to be really key is going to be Karnowski. Guarding the middle of that paint. I against Florida, I saw South Carolina get a lot of points right in the bucket. He's going to have to be able to get some stops, contest a lot of shots, but also stay out of foul trouble. It also helps that the guy they bring in when they sub him off is also, close to 7 foot. But he's no Karnowski. So I think Karnowski's kind of one of the key players to watch there for Gonzaga. As he has been the whole tournament. But I think if he has a good defensive game, his offensive game is just going to flow right through it. And I wouldn't see Gonzaga having too big of a, and I want to be careful when I choose my words, because I guess what I'm trying to say is I think they'll have a nice night and do a lot of what they want to do, but I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout either. So, I think Karnowski is going to be the key for Gonzaga, I guess, moving forward, really. But, in turn, Thornwell, here's when the game's the biggest. I think Santana Moss said it when he was in college. He said big players, show up during big time games. So, Thornwell, the spotlight's his now. And I'm very excited to see how he's going to handle it. I would love to see him, get his usual 20 plus points a game and the game go right down to the wire. I think that's kind of what a lot of people want at this point. But, I think he will need, his 20-plus points for South Carolina to really have a good chance at winning. I don't see him scoring, well, I mean, I guess he could score, 15 or whatever, and they have a decent chance, but he's not going to be able to score 8 points and expect to win the game. I think he's going to have to, at least be at 15 points if they want a really good chance. So, for me, I think the players to watch, obviously, Thornwell and Karnowski.
Yeah, but I'm looking more forward just to see how the guard on guard deal runs with him. Like I want to see Thornwell versus Williams Goss, because he had a bad game against West Virginia, but they still just pulled it out. He shot 2 for 10, and it's not going to be a lot easier with Thornwell because he's a good defensive player and he's big, 6'5", over 200 pounds, like 210, 211, something like that. So I just want to see how that matchup plays out, see if that has implications on the game.
Yeah.
All right, now who you guys got in that game?
I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I've seen too much out of them to really pick against them. I've seen some balance out of them. I thought they, even though it was, a little bit more of a struggle, I thought they did, pretty good against that West Virginia press. They came up against a hot team in Xavier and rolled them. So I like Gonzaga. I like their depth. Like the guard play, like the big guy. I think Mark Few, I don't think Mark Few is necessarily coming out trying to prove people wrong, but I think we're really starting to see his coaching genius come out. And I think the Final Four is going to be another platform where we see it again.
Yeah, I'm probably more inclined to go with Gonzaga as well. The depth, I think, is a big key issue. Go deeper in South Carolina can. And like I said, South Carolina is going to have to find points from everything in Thornwell. So, and like for a team, I mean, it's both teams' first time this deep. But I just feel like Gonzaga just in their pedigree from making a step up from Cinderella to fame, just feel like they're built more for this situation.
I'm going to go with the underdogs, man. I'm going to go with South Carolina on this one.
Yep.
Like I said, Thornwell's been playing good, but like I said, their defense been keeping them in the games, man. So I think just how this one's going to be, the defense is going to keep them real close up in the first half, and then once the second half, I think they're just going to explode on them. So gonna have to see, but either way, it could be a good game regardless, man. But we got to roll with the underdogs in this one. Now, for the next one, who do you have for the next matchup with UNC?
Oregon UNC?
Yeah.
As my one pick that I'm hoping is right for the finals, I'm sticking with UNC. I just think they're probably just the most talented team left. They were arguably the most talented team in the tournament. They played consistent. They won their games like they should. They've had some fights, but they've gotten past every test. The one question with me on UNC is just is Joe Barry, is his ankle good enough to go the whole time? That's a big question for me. But with him and Jackson, I can't see Oregon winning another one here. I think this has to be the matchup where they miss Boucher. They got injured.
Yeah. Well, but Bell has shown up like a monster in his absence, though, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'll just throw a couple names out there. Kennedy Meeks, Isaiah Hicks, Justin Jackson, Luke May. They're all over, 6'9"? 6'9" or over. I mean, they rebound the ball really well. They play pretty good defense. They score the ball. There's just not much that North Carolina doesn't do. And if Oregon goes through a stretch like they did against Michigan, where they're not scoring the ball very efficiently or effectively, if they're, shooting threes and they're not dropping, if Dorsey's not making his shots, if Brooks isn't making his shots, they're going to be in for some trouble. I think it would be very unfortunate if North Carolina were to win this game by 10 plus and it's kind of boring. I think at this point in the tournament, everybody wants the game to be last possession. I know I do, but I think this could just be the one that broke the camel's back in Oregon. So I like North Carolina here. They're doing all they can to get Joel Berry ready. They probably didn't practice him to the level they would have liked to, but at this point of the year, I don't think he really needs more practice. I think, if he can get out there, do some light work, film's more pivotal now than anything else. Cause you can cover a lot of the stuff you watch on film in a walkthrough. And, at this point, I think that's really all any of those players need, really on any of the teams. So, I like North Carolina here. I like Roy Williams. I think the stat of the Final Four right now is Roy Williams has coached over 500 minutes in the Final Four. The other three coaches have a combined time of 0. I saw that. It's like, you know that, but you didn't
just
realize
seeing the visual.
Yeah, you didn't realize it. Because I remember I saw that and I was like, wow, experience is big in moments like this. Roy Williams won't get flustered as a coach. No, I'm not expecting any coach to go out there and freeze and start making bad decisions as a coach. But, late in the game, he knows what works in big moments. He knows what players can and can't handle in big moments. So, I just think more things fall in favor of North Carolina here.
Yeah. I just feel like they're a more polished, offensively gifted, they're similar teams. It's just for what Oregon is outside of maybe defensively, as far as getting blocks, I should say Oregon might be a little better there, but everything else, just North Carolina is as good or better at, and just they're more talented overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have North Carolina in that one as well. But just looking at our matchups, you guys have Gonzaga versus UNC for the final. I would have South Carolina versus UNC for the final. Just if it was to happen, who would you guys have winning it all? Just based on your predictions. I would have UNC for mine. I just think they're better overall team, more polished. With Roy Williams, he has the experience, nothing he hasn't seen when it comes to March Madness and being in the Final Four. I just think that they will be able to pull it off. But just looking at you guys would have Zaga versus UNC. What do you guys think will happen with your predictions if it was to happen?
I would go North Carolina as well.
Yeah, I think UNC and that matchup, I don't think it's a very fun final game.
I could see it being that way. But, I guess for the spirit of the tournament, I would hope it's not that way.
I agree. I want a closer game, but I just feel like that matchup just is ugly for Gonzaga.
Yeah, just all the size that North Carolina brings would cause havoc. I would definitely agree with that statement.
All right, guys. Now, is there anything else you have for NCAA basketball or just sports in general? Or
It's sad that college basketball is coming to a close. It was another fun year. Baseball starting up. I know we don't get too pumped over that. So looks like the countdown for football starts I guess there's still some NBA. So
yeah.
But in college athletics, looks like the countdown for football is going to be starting here in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Okay. MSU spring game Saturday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Snuck up on me too.
I know. Man. I know Michigan's is fairly soon, but I can't remember exactly what day. Let me look that up.
You going to check that out, Darnell?
I'm still debating. Like I said, it snuck up on me so fast.
That's crazy, man. That went wow. Yeah.
Michigan's is the 15th of April.
Okay.
So they got a couple weeks still.
Oh man.
But I mean, crazy, hey, that stuff's right around the corner. So
yeah.
That gets you excited, and then you get about 4-month letdown. So
yeah.
It is what it is. But we had a fun year of college basketball. Trayon, now that you kind of got into it a little bit this year and watched some more of the games, what would you say, just from you being an observer this year, more so than in the past, what were your takeaways from college basketball this year? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Man, I just like
surprised you.
One thing. Well, just with me, just so much talent. Like just getting used to, like particularly this March Madness. Man, just so many teams just out there that you're just kind of unaware about. Well, for me, in particular, just with how huge the bracket is and stuff. Like you will see some teams you're familiar with, and they'll get upset. It's like, well, dang, I need to start following this team more. And stuff like that. So just this was a good year for me, man. Just to get familiar with more teams, but it's still, it's still letting me know that hey, there's still a lot of teams out there I need to get to know a little bit more about and follow because they can do damage when March gets here, just as well as the teams that's a number one seed or whatnot. So that's the biggest kind of like letdown for me. Even though just check out the talent more, but. Overall, man, I just love the energy that this college basketball just brings. I definitely agree with you guys. There's nothing like college basketball. With all the sports and stuff, like people get hyped up about the Super Bowl and stuff, but March Madness is just the spirit, the competitiveness. Just these guys out there trying to make a name for themselves, trying to put their school on the map and everything like that. The underdogs and everything like that. It's just a pretty fun experience, man. So. We'll definitely be checking it out some more next year, man. Just extremely pumped for it, man. This has definitely been a good year of basketball. Now, you guys have anything else to add?
No, I think we covered quite a bit this week.
All right, yeah. So always, guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the show. You can check us out on Twitter at DKM_cast. You can also check out this podcast on platforms like YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, podcast.com. Just hit us up in that search bar. And that's about it, man. Y'all take care. And I'm going to be enjoying these games this weekend. So this was Saturday and Monday. So y'all take it easy. Peace.